As U.S. President Donald Trump celebrates 6 months in office, we will discuss some of his administration's successes and challenges. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Caleb, sitting in for Anand Naidu, and you're watching The Heat. Welcome, everyone. U.S. President Trump says the United States has been totally revived in his first 6 months in office. The president making the comments Sunday on his social media platform, The Truth. Since January, the Trump administration has cracked down on illegal immigration, reduced the federal workforce, and pushed through Congress a massive spending and tax bill. The U.S. president has also withdrawn the United States from international agreements, including the World Health Organization, implemented tariffs against trading partners, and failed to end conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza that were on his list as he was campaigning. Now, for more on Trump's first 6 months in office, let's bring in our panel. Good set of friends here. Joining us from Washington, D.C., Rina Shah. Rina is a political commentator and CEO of Rilax Strategies. Also with us, Joel Rubin, a former Deputy Secretary of State for House Affairs in our newsroom. Joseph Williams, a former senior editor for U.S. News Report and a journalist. And also Eric Bolling, host of Bolling podcast, and he joins us from Florida. I want to thank you all. Eric, I want to begin with you. We talked about so much that Trump is really focused on: tightening up the border, cracking down on immigration, working on the economy, tariffs across a whole host of nations, including many allies that have really drawn a lot of criticism from many people globally. But let's talk first about what he calls his big, beautiful bill, the spending and tax bill, because information out by the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says it's going to add $3.4 trillion to the national debt, as well as cut out insurance for those who need it most, the elderly, some 10 million. Do you think that is what Trump considers his greatest legislative success so far?
No, well, legislative success. I think he believes the big, beautiful bill will do a lot of the things that, well, Sean, you didn't really mention some of the things that he talks about, adding billions upon tens of billions of dollars to the border, to secure the border. He knows the American people gave him a mandate to do that, so he's getting that. The $4 trillion that's added to the deficit is a CBO estimate. It could happen, but it also could go the other way. Trump believes that growth is, and he believes that his tariffs will assist the U.S. GDP, bring manufacturing back here to the United States. Claims there's $17 trillion worth of investment coming this way already, and that would grow the economy. If the economy does grow at a higher pace than the CBO estimated, then that $4 trillion maybe even reduce the deficit rather than add to the deficit. I think that still remains to be seen. It's a typical political move on a lot of people's parts. I personally don't like a lot of things he's doing in the financial world. I'm very much against the tariffs. I like a free market. I'm a libertarian. I'd rather see free markets. So I'm not sure all of this is going to play out exactly like he had hoped. I will tell you the mandate to close the border, secure the border, is one that's really working for him. It will continue to, probably flow right into 2026. The question is, what will happen in the next 15, 18 months or so? If he stays strong with the border and crime and those sorts of things, I think he'll be okay in 2026. If, on the other hand, the tariffs do increase prices,
Right.
Again, my feeling, what he needs to be doing is bringing oil prices down even further so that you don't get a price shock going into midterm elections, which would really derail the Republicans in 2026.
Okay, Joel, I want to steer this back toward his legislative efforts and talk more about this measure, the spending and tax measure, because the information that we're getting comes from the CBO, which is a nonpartisan entity. And I haven't heard really any economist say that it is not going to add money to the deficit down the road. Your thoughts on this?
Sean,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Look, Sean, I mean, when you're losing the game, you blame the umpire. This is just what happens. And the umpire in this case is the CBO. It is highly credible. Nobody really can, with a straight face, say that the tax cuts for the rich are not going to blow up the deficit. They are. And the reality is that bill is stealing health care from the poor to give tax cuts to the very wealthy in this country. That goes against the president's campaign pledge. He said he wouldn't cut Medicaid. He is. He said he's for the working people. He's not. He's for his wealthy billionaire donors. And I think that the reality is that prices are going up now. He ran on the mandate apparently to try to lower prices. They're going up across the board, and they're going to continue to go up as the price shocks of the tariffs. Wait,
Okay.
let me finish, please.
Hang on.
As the price shocks of the tariffs and the uncertainty in the global markets, and I agree with Eric.
Yeah.
Look, tariffs are a bad policy idea, but if you're going to enact them, have some logic and rationale behind them, not say, oh, 50% tariffs now on Brazil, a country with whom we actually have a trade surplus because I don't like what they're doing politically. So the tariff policy is a mess. And I have to add one tiny thing. They are illegal. And it's quite likely that the funds that we are gaining through the taxes obtained from tariffs will have to be returned to those producers who paid the tariff, because it's quite likely that American courts will deem these to not be legitimate tariffs.
Okay, Eric, I appreciate this, and I want to keep this a conversation. Let me get through the panel one time, and then we'll come back to you, because I know you're going to have a lot to say.
That's probably fine. Just be honest about this.
I am
Prices
being honest
aren't going up.
Okay, hang on.
Maybe down the road, but Joe, you can't say they're going up. Everything, inflation's down. Everything fuels.
Okay, hang on. Lately?
Gentlemen, hang on. Just Parker for 1 second. Rina, I want to get to you, because Donald Trump ran, said the economy was a mess, and a lot of voters agreed with him. You know, the price of eggs, fuel, everything, the hangover from COVID. But if you look at the polls now, 2/3 now disapprove of how Trump is handling inflation, and 56% of those people say that inflation and prices the key issue right now. Talk to me a bit about that. What you think rank and file Republicans are focused on right now, and how would you grade Trump's marks so far in trying to address economic issues in the United States?
When voters go to the polls, we know that economy is front of mind, and no doubt it was that way this past election, because people were feeling that the economy wasn't serving them, that it wasn't going upwards in a way that the Biden administration was telling us it was. But I think it's important here at the 6-month mark to sort of zoom out and look at Trump's first 6 months. And what I see is bold moves and big risks. It's very important to see that Trump has ditched the World Health Organization. He's ditched the Paris Accord, and he slapped tariffs on our allies. And so what we also see is a boost in U.S. jobs, but he's also stalling on Gaza and Ukraine. So what I see here is, with Trump at the helm, America is shaking things up early. But the question is,
Rina, I think we're having some trouble with your audio. Let's try and clean that up just a bit. I'm going to move on to Joseph, because I want to get back. You're making some good points. Joseph, picking up, talking about some of the measures in that bill, Republicans have been laser focused on public broadcasting for some time. They consider it a liberal entity that just promotes liberal policies. Talk to me a bit about what's at stake here, because now NPR is facing the risk of having all of its affiliates lose funding, and that's the way NPR here in D.C. gets its money to put its programs on the air. And also VOA has just basically been gutted, and someone who lived overseas in Afghanistan for a while, I know so many people really turned to VOA in so many ways as something very precious. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's one of the moves out of Autocracy 101 is to control the media and punish your media ally or enemies and reward your media allies. We noticed that Fox News and One American News, they're not necessarily on anybody's hit list at the administration, but NPR, Washington Post, certainly, now the Wall Street Journal, a conservative publication that nobody credible, I don't think, can accuse of a left-wing liberal bias, they're all under assault. Now, we're probably going to get some pushback from Eric, but certainly these are not moves that a solid, a confident administration would make, given the fact that these are critiques and legitimate critiques in some cases, and that whatever agenda NPR may or may not have, certainly the polls indicate that America was not hip to it if that's what they were in fact doing. You know, Trump won, other conservatives have won. Fox News is still a thing. Tucker Carlson is still a thing. So the assaults on the media, I think, is in a way to kind of tamp down critiques, because the only media organizations that aren't being hit, that aren't being slapped around, are the ones that, by and large, agree with Donald Trump. Now, writ large, is it going to make NPR disappear? No. Is it going to make criticism of Trump disappear? Probably not. But certainly, it is a disturbing step for anybody who is viewing things or viewing countries like Poland or Hungary, where they very definitely have media crackdowns, and nobody would question the fact that they are, in fact, autocracies.
Okay, Eric, I want to jump back in with you and give you a chance to address some of these things. I guess it kind of feels like they're piling on.
It's okay. I'll take it one at a time, Joel. The prices are going down. There's every indication. The last number, inflation was 2.7%. It peaked at 9.9% under Joe Biden.
Up from 2.4 the previous month.
Stop it. Stop. You've
True.
been in office 6 months. It's done nothing but come down.
It was coming down under Biden, too. You didn't give him credit for that.
Oh, are you out of your mind? Joel, listen, I'll do this with you. I'll play this game with you all you want. The prices are coming down. They've come down under Donald Trump. 6 months into his presidency, they'll continue to come down. You know why? Because oil prices are coming down, period. You cannot say prices are going up. They're down substantially from when Donald Trump took over. You can't say, you can't blame Trump for what Biden did. So let me, if I may, tackle the media.
Well, look, you know, but Eric, also, we know that the tariffs, if you listen to virtually every economist, except for those who are very close to Trump, they are going to affect consumer prices. So Joel does have a point, don't you think?
When? I'm an economist. I did it too. I was expecting it to happen. It's not happening. Guess what? Trump fooled me too.
It's not happening for a tactical reason, because there was an over purchase due to the concern about the price spike, and that purchase is going to run out. We're already seeing, for example, toys in the fall, prices are going up.
Gentlemen, hang on, one at a time, one at a time, one at a time.
There's an economic explanation is what I mean.
Okay. Joel, I want to talk to you a bit about Doge, Elon Musk, the effort to reduce the federal workforce. Could that have been handled better?
Was it even handled well at all in any way, shape, or form? The answer is no. It was slapshot. We just eviscerated American soft power, fired 15% of our diplomats across areas that were ideologically in the bullseye of Donald Trump and his team. They ended up having to, for example, rehire people back into the nuclear security area when they were fired by Doge, because it turns out we need to actually have experts on our nuclear arsenal. And this didn't create savings. That's the story that's going to come out over time, is that the cost of doing this is so high. Right. And then the cost, of course, of not having the kinds of preventive help that we need. For example, FEMA lost staff due to early retirements that could have potentially helped mitigate the disaster that we saw in Texas. And that's just going to repeat itself over and over as time goes on.
Rina, what about that? Do you think, I think we have your audio back, do you think that there are some good arguments there, because so many people, especially conservatives, have wanted government trim for some time, but the argument is they went in with a chainsaw instead of a scalpel?
What I hear from rank and file Republicans is that they wanted to see an America First approach, both at home and abroad. And when they look at Trump's first 6 months, they see that America First has fired up the U.S. economy. They talk about 1 million new jobs. They talk about manufacturing booming. But still, the sticking point, and the sore point rather, is that tariffs are hiking prices. But they argue that these tariffs are simply negotiating tactics and they won't stick. Still, again, they hit consumers hard. So what I see here is the Trump administration taking a gamble. Either, they're trying to protect workers now or pay later. And then when you talk about America First abroad, again, you have those same conservatives saying that Trump's America First is rocking the world, and it's shaking up global alliances, as we all know, quitting the World Health Organization, abandoning the Paris Accord, tariff wars with allies, so essentially it's America alone. And with NATO spending up, the trust is down, though. So I think this is about strength versus isolation. And you have, again, the Republicans taking Trump's back on this and saying, this is about America first. This is about a bold new approach. This is about taking big risks. That is what they want this first 6 months to be characterized by. And that's what they got.
Eric, I want to jump back in with you for just a second, because you talked about being an economist, and Trump has been very outspoken on Jerome Powell, depending on what time it is. Sometimes he's called for his removal, other times said he has backed him. And I want you to hear what he said about Powell just recently.
He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him, but they did. So, no, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned.
You know, Eric, we have to point out that it was Trump who put him in. Your thoughts on that, and also the fact that Trump is basically demanding a significant drop in the rate, a full percentage point, and virtually no economist that I've read thinks that has any way of happening, or if that it would be good for the U.S. economy, if indeed it did happen.
I think it would be wonderful for the U.S. economy. I hope it does happen. I think what Trump is doing, he realizes he can't go in with a sledgehammer and fire Jerome Powell. It would create people like Joel saying that he's a dictator and whatnot. But the reality is we certainly could bring rates down. Rates can come down. They're sitting at 4.25%, 4.5%. Housing, the long-term mortgage rate, it's nearly 7%. It could come down 1 or 2 percentage points, and that would add fuel to the economy. That would add growth to the economy. Would it increase prices? Maybe, but we don't know that. Right now, prices are coming down. Trump has the economy in a sweet spot. Prices are on their way down. The stock market is making all-time highs, and interest rates are still very high relative to the last 20 years. He's got room. He's working the refs. He's pushing Jerome Powell to lower rates. Will only do great things for the economy, really, with lower rates. Higher rates happen when you're trying to tamp down a fiery economy that's burning too hot. The economy's not burning too hot. It's cooling down nicely. I agree with Trump that rates should come down, and probably at the end of Jerome Powell's term, like he says he's likely going to leave, go with someone who's aggressively pushing to have lower interest rates. It's good for everyone, lower interest rates. It's cheaper to rent homes. It's cheaper to buy homes. It's good for everyone. It's cheaper to start businesses. It's a very good thing to have low interest rates.
Okay, I want to switch gears a bit because Trump has been so active in his first 6 months, and talk a bit about immigration and also how active ICE has been throughout the United States. That was another campaign promise to immigration reform. But during some of the raids, they've been very controversial in many ways, pulling some people away who, didn't have any kind of crime. And in one case, a 25-year-old Army veteran who was working security at a California farm, and he was arrested. Here's what he had to say.
They asked me if I was a citizen, and I told them yes. I told them everything. I was a citizen. I worked there, and they didn't care. They still never told me my charges. And then they sent me away. They sent me to a place in downtown LA without even telling me what I was arrested for.
Okay, Joseph, we heard those kind of stories, and even though Trump has been very aggressive, polls show many people in this United States simply don't support the way he's going about this reform. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, it's interesting that Donald Trump is underwater on this issue polling-wise. 60% of the people, roughly give or take, don't agree with the fact that these sweeps are happening and that you're just rounding up the usual suspects for no other reason than that they look like gang members or they may have a tattoo. Unfortunately, I think this problem's only going to get worse because they've shoveled a ton of money at Homeland Security in this budget bill. And if you have money, you're going to spend it. And if they've got people that are willing to do this, they're going to get more people who are willing to do this. We're talking about alligator Alcatraz, which is one of the most absurd ideas that I've ever heard of. And you're talking about people getting swept up and taking to third world war-torn countries that they've never even been affiliated with or associated with. And the Supreme Court, in its way, is facilitating this. Now, we talk about the courts as kind of a bulwark against these sorts of things that really kind of press and test judicial limits and legal limits, but the courts really have not stepped up, at least the Supreme Court has not, and has been very, very cautious, I think in part to avoid a constitutional process, but a crisis rather, but I think also because they may in fact tacitly agree with what he's doing. So I don't think this problem is going to get any better. I think it's going to get worse, in fact, now that we've got a ton of money and we've got a lot of things going towards ICE and Border Patrol that we won't even I don't even think we'll be able to comprehend what's coming. But I do think that it's going to make people look bad. I think it's going to make the administration look bad. I think people are going to sour on this even more than they have. And what that means in terms of electoral politics or the midterms remains to be seen. But I don't think it portends well for the administration at all.
Okay, Rina, let's also talk about the fact that the Trump administration is working to end deportation protection for tens of thousands of people who have been in this country under various programs for some time, but now basically saying that has to go away, working to deport them. Your thoughts on this, and do you believe that that is one of the measures that is really contributing to Trump being underwater in a poll on immigration?
As a long-time political operative, I would say I take all these polls with a grain of salt. I think, again, at the 6-month mark, you got to look at how the president is delivering on promises he made on the campaign trail. When we talk about border security and immigration, we may have disagreement as individuals here. I myself am a daughter of legal immigrants. I always believe that people should follow the letter of the law when they want to come to America and be Americans. I also believe that we don't have compassionate conservatism anymore. That is dead. Because the one big thing that Trump promised on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rina, we're losing your audio once again. I apologize.
He would be a deporter in chief. And Obama, the former Obama, was a
I'm sorry, we're going to have to move on. Eric, I want to bring you into this conversation because
I'm not sure which polls you guys are reading. CBS had a poll recently that said 52% of Americans.
Hang on, Joel. Hang on, Joel. I want Eric to make his point.
You know, pick a new.
CNN had a poll last week. MSNBC had a poll. Overwhelmingly, American people across, not Republicans, American people approve of deporting people who are here illegally. Are there going to be mistakes? Of course there are. When you deport millions upon millions of people who have already broken the law to come over here, there's going to be. By the way, Maryland Mann was not a mistake. He was an illegal here who shouldn't have been here, who committed crimes while here. He should go home. The American public mandated Trump to do exactly what he's doing. You guys may have something on whether he's a good guy or not, or whether he's, completely honest all the time, but he's doing the one job that I believe he was elected to do, which is get the people out of here who are taking American jobs, who shouldn't be here in the first place, come back in legally.
Okay, so
can I jump in,
Eric, I want to follow up quickly because a federal lawmaker from Nebraska has reached, I believe it's Nebraska, it's one Midwest state, has reached out to the Trump administration saying, look, you're arresting all our migrants and now we can't harvest produce in this state. We need some kind of break. Are we going to hear more of that, it's just simply gone too far?
Yeah, here's what happened. So he heard from the Department of Agriculture saying, hey, we can't deport all, the migrants who are, 28% of migrant workers are illegals, are illegal aliens. We can't deport them all. So Trump mentions maybe we'll do case-by-case basis. It went crazy. The American public said, no, deport the people who are illegal. You know what's going to happen? Prices then may start to go up a little bit. So the American public has to decide, do I want cheap strawberries and avocados from California in New York, or do I want all the illegals gone and it may add 5 or 10 cents to an avocado to truck it to get it from picked produce and put it in
Joseph,
grocery stores on the East Coast.
Well, I think Eric is operating on a bit of a fallacy here. I mean, it's not that people don't want clamps put down on illegal immigration, that people don't want people here illegally. I think what's the problem is, and what is troubling the American public, is the process. Because not only are you sweeping up people who haven't committed a crime, but who also have been contributing to society, who have been picking those strawberries and those watermelons and getting tax money to the United States. That is a net positive. What the problem is, if you're sweeping up people who look like immigrants and sending them to a gulag someplace without due process, I think that's what people have a problem with. And I think that's what the Trump administration is definitely going to have a problem with.
Gentlemen, we only have like 4 minutes left, and we haven't talked about one issue that has got a great deal of attention, and that's the Epstein case. Joel, I want you to weigh in on that first. Talk a bit about why this case has really hit a nerve with the MAGA faithful.
Sure, and also just to point out, I have not called Donald Trump a dictator, but I'll tell you one thing: when you militarize the American immigration system and send people into cities with the National Guard, that makes people think that a dictator is running the country. And they look around and they say, well, what about his own peccadillos? This guy, has been convicted of 33 crimes in the past, and now we see the Epstein tapes come out where He spent the last 10 years engaging in conspiracy theories, which is what mobilizes his base and got him political power. And the core one was this Epstein file idea that somehow there was a deep conspiracy in the government protecting Democrats, and that when they got into power, they would reveal the names, and the top conspiracy theorists he put into power at head of the FBI, and the FBI and the DOJ said, oh, nothing to see here, and all of his base is now depressed and wonders. It's either two things. They were lied to for a decade, or Donald Trump is covering up something likely to protect his friends, his billionaire friends, at the expense of the working people who want to know what really went on. And so it's eating into his base, eating into the bone marrow. Democrats, we don't really care. We don't think there's a conspiracy. We don't look at this as anything serious. But for the people who've been following him for years, they are deeply depressed, demoralized, and it is hurting him deeply politically.
Eric, I want to get your take on this. Why is this an issue that won't go away for Trump?
Because exactly the reason what Joel just said. It's true. The Pam Bondis of the world, Cashes and Bongino said, we're going to blow this thing wide open. When we get there, they got there, and all of a sudden it's starting to go away. And no one can figure out why, because if there was some damning evidence about Donald Trump, it would have come out before the election. So,
give me your thoughts. Why won't it go away? What do you think is behind this? You have to have some idea.
I don't have an idea, but I'm on the side. MAGA is divided right now. Half of MAGA says release it, half of MAGA says get going. I want it released. I personally think if Donald Trump's name was on this list, it would be bad for about a beat, and then something else would happen, and they'd forgive Donald Trump because they love him. But this hiding the list is problematic for me personally. And I'm on the side of the Megyn Kelly and Tuckers who say release the list versus the Bannons and Charlie Kirk who say, let's move on now.
Joe, I want to give you the final word on this. Is this going to have legs? Is this going to continue to haunt this? Because Trump has been simply Teflon. Really nothing. There's not a controversy that has really stuck with him during his first term and during the election and now.
Well, the one thing I will say is that it's been remarkable that his numbers have been consistent. Regardless of what happens, he's ticking along at 44%, underwater to be sure, but not sinking. So that's a big issue. So if it has legs, if it doesn't have legs, Donald Trump, I think, will endure to a degree. I do think it's going to be damaging. There is word that there is not a list. That's what the FBI said. But there are more questions than answers, and I think it's going to continue to dog him for at least the near future, if not longer than that.
Okay. Our apologies to Rina Shah. We were not able to get her audio back up. We always enjoy her commentary. But guys, I appreciate it. Next time we have you on, we'll talk about the midterms, where we're going from here. But always a lively discussion. I appreciate all your time, all your answers. Thanks very much. And that's it for this edition of The Heat, everyone. I'm Sean Caleb's in Washington, D.C. As always, thanks for watching.